And welcome back to another very special episode of The Breakdown, X's and O's. And we're not talking hugs and kisses, ladies and gentlemen, because today, as you can see, usually when I'm full screened, it means that the 5-year NFL veteran is not here today. Well, that's partly true. He will be here in just a minute. It's on a very important phone call, so let him do that. But in the meantime, I was in Mobile last week. So I might have recruited a face you have never seen before. For my co-host, for the first segment of today's breakdown episode, let me introduce to you, Mr. Alec Courtier.
What up, guys? How are we?
Hey, Alec.
What up? How are we doing?
What's up? How are you?
Good.
Tell me a little about your day.
Got back from Mobile on Sunday and then had class today again. So I know you had classes too. How'd that go?
I'm playing catch up.
Yeah.
A lot of catch up. But I should be good once the end of the week starts to. I mean, you just started school, so you really hadn't missed much. But
yeah,
I had been already 2 weeks into school, so I'm playing catch up.
That makes sense. Yeah, other than that, not a whole lot's going on. Snowed. We came back to snow from our 70 degrees down there.
Yeah, you got a sweatshirt and everything. I'm wearing like a nice t-shirt, maybe some shorts. Oh, it's been so nice up here. It hasn't gotten under 50 degrees. It's so beautiful.
Yeah.
You're up there freezing your butt off.
Oh, yeah, we got off the plane and there was snow coming through like the terminal, like right between the plane and the gate. I was like, come on, man. It was a shame.
Couldn't be me, but I heard you had a nice little conversation with the NFL prospect.
Yeah. I was sitting on the plane, and I'm sitting there, and I'm like, huh. These guys look like they're just at the Senior Bowl. And I turn around, and I look. Sure, there's Quincy Riley sitting there, the corner from Louisville. And I'm like, oh. And he looks at me, nods what up, and he asks the flight attendant, and he's like, can I change seats? I didn't have anyone next to me, so he came and sat by me. And I ended up talking to him for an hour and a half.
Y'all exchange socials and all that jazz. And
yeah.
That's cool, though.
He got me on Instagram. Jonas Sanker, the safety out of Virginia, was on that flight, too. He said what up.
That was one of my guys I had last week for who the Saints might grab.
Yeah.
They need safety.
Nice. Low key, though, he looks like Jalen Hurts a little bit. Like, I was thinking that when he came on the plane, I was like, I knew it wasn't Hurts, but I was just like, interesting. I don't
know. He kind of looks like my first impression was kind of Tyrese Halliburton.
That's a good one, too. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I see him with the goatee now, and he kind of
does
look like Jalen. But, like,
man.
No goatee, he kind of looks like Tyrese Halliburton.
Yeah. It could have been either one, but yeah, it was crazy because I ended up – my first flight was to Dallas, and I think I ended up having 5 or 6 players on my flight from the Senior Bowl. I left early.
I know. That must have been nice to kind of pick their brain. Yeah, you had to leave early. And so did they. I mean, a lot of those players probably left the same time you did.
Around.
Just about. Well, they had about a little better transportation. They didn't have to call an Uber 3 times and 4 times and 5 times to try to get somebody to pick you up.
My Ubers kept getting blocked, man. Finally found out security wouldn't let them through.
Michelle says pics or it didn't happen, Alec.
Pics or it didn't happen. I mean, do I pull up the Insta?
I will confirm I did see Quincy Riley have Alec on his following list on Instagram. So I will confirm that. I was snooping earlier, and I did see it. Oh.
Dude, I don't know
Receipts.
if the light's gonna hold on.
Baby
Maybe.
girl.
I
Turn
don't know
that
if it's
brightness down,
gonna
big
focus.
girl. Turn that brightness down on your phone, baby girl.
Alright.
Big boy beanbag. Oh, there you go. There you go. It's a
Yeah,
little
right
better.
there. Right
It's a little
there.
better. It's a little
Mm-hmm.
better.
A little bit.
Yeah. It's a little better, but you can't really see it. But
No,
I
but you
will
can see
be
the tick
the
mark. You know who it is.
I'm the confirmation. You could trust me because I've been on this show a bunch of times. But Alec, if you don't mind, I'm ready to get into the first segment of this show, and it
I'll
is the devastating news. Hold up. Thank you. I have to do sound effect. It is important to this
very
show.
important.
I don't have sound effects, and it just ruins everything. Well, usually we talk about the past week of NFL. I'm not going to talk about the Pro Bowl. Nobody really cares about the Pro Bowl unless you're just watching it for fun. But there's not really anything for me to talk about the Pro Bowl. So, the last week in the news, teams are preparing for free agency. The Rams are done with Cooper Kupp. And Myles Garrett is done in Cleveland. Where do these two all pros go? Now, Alec, I'm going to give you a little bit of a kind of information on the two. We're going to go one each. I kind of want to do Cooper Kupp first. Excuse me, I dropped my phone. And then we'll go to Garrett. But I have a lot of information. I'm going to full screen talk about it. I'm going to full screen you after I get done talking about it. And you're going to give me your take. I know what team you're taking. Just don't take my team. So, let's go. After 8 seasons with the team, the LA Rams officially decided to part ways with the 2021 Offensive Player of the Year. Now that LA is seeking a trade, the Rams have told Kupp that they will send him to a team that is a championship contender. What team that will be is what we're about to talk about. Kupp says, and I quote, "I thought I would begin and end my career here." Talking about in Los Angeles. Now, Kupp has only played 2 full seasons in 8 seasons in LA. Now, that's the 2020 season and 2021 season, and the last one being that offensive player of the year campaign. Since that campaign, Kupp has only played 33 games in 3 seasons. So it's time to move on for the LA Rams. Football's a business. With business involves money. Cooper Kupp has a $29.8 million cap hit next year after a 3-year deal he signed just last year. He's on the second year of it in 2025. Obviously, the Rams drafted a great, outstanding wideout in Puka Nacua, who absolutely picked up where Kupp left off when Kupp was injured all last year. And so they're going to stick with him. So, Alec, with all that being said, where does Cooper Kupp go?
I mean, from what I've seen Steelers as Commanders. I was like, that doesn't make sense. Like, someone needs a vet that's going to help their wide receiver room. And I was thinking, I'm like, okay, a young QB is trying to recruit. He needs his first kind of big guy to come there. And that's where I landed on the Patriots. I look and I'm like, Drake May. Drake May needs someone to help him develop that's a sure, like, bona fide receiver, even if he's on the downside of his career now. I really believe that Cooper Kupp to the Patriots would be a good fit. Um, Not only that, they're looking for a vet. They have a pretty young roster, and that wide receiver room needs some help. So, with all that being said, Cooper Kupp to the Patriots would be my pick. I don't know what it'll take to get it done. I've seen third, I've seen fourth. You don't really know trade wise or anything yet, but at this point, I think the Patriots. And then if I had to pick a team besides that, the Steelers, because I've seen that they're looking to possibly get rid of George Pickens. I don't know how true that is, but either way, you keep Pickens and can add Kupp. There you go. You have a duo too. So either of those two.
Now, in just a second, I do want to talk about Kupp's worth. I'm glad you brought that up. What could a team possibly give the Rams once they have acquired Kupp? But I have a little bit of a different answer than you. We talked about
Let's
it
hear it.
before. The Patriots, Steelers, these are great spots, but you have to take into consideration a team that can incur that $29.8 million cap hit and to restructure contracts for $30 million is not going to be easy. So you really have to
No.
send him to a team that can take that on. The Patriots are probably one of those teams. Steelers, maybe, depends on what they do with their quarterback situation.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking he stays in LA, Alec, but he goes to the Chargers. Now, Jim Harbaugh,
Okay.
new head coach for the Chargers, is now getting his system in LA,
Yeah.
AFC LA. For me, Cup going to the Chargers would be a move Harbaugh would make to get a guy that would be his. Because right now he has Herbert. That's not his guy. He was there. In the entire wide receiver room, besides Ladd McConkey, those aren't Harbaugh's guys. So why not bring in a guy that could be Harbaugh's guy? Make the move to get Cup, grab Cup. The Chargers are projected to have $63 million in cap space for 2025. This would be perfect. It wouldn't even cut half of it to bring Cup over there. And I guarantee you, because of the Rams signing Cup to a 3-year deal, they wouldn't have all that $30 million. Usually, they would only have to take on the player's salary because Cup signed a signing bonus with the Rams, so the Rams would have to pay for his signing bonus.
Yeah. I mean, when you look at Cup and the Chargers, that fit. You could add him into a room with McConkey, and then you have Palmer still there, I'm pretty sure. So between that, you have that's a good wide receiver. I mean, 2? Would you slate him behind McConkey, you think? Probably.
It just depends. It really depends on the season. Because, like,
Right.
obviously he could probably be a wide receiver 1 on the Patriots if we're being for real.
Oh,
George Pickens
100%
would
the
probably beat
Patriots.
him out in Pittsburgh. On the Chargers, Ladd McConkey's only a rookie. The chances of Ladd McConkey beating out Cup, we haven't seen a lot of Cup. He's been injured so much. We haven't seen a lot of him to say, hey, this guy's going to be wide receiver number 1. But if a team wants to trade for him, which they have to, he's not a free agent, you have to trade for him. What's this wide receiver going to be worth? Is it going to be like the Jets trade for Devontae Adams?
Mm-hmm.
Is it going to be that
Well,
kind of worth? What kind of draft pick are we talking? What kind of capital are we talking to get Cooper Cup to your team?
and you got to take into account how many or like how much money each team's going to eat. Like, is a team going to eat more money to get less or give up less of a pick, or you don't know who's going to eat what. So we'll just have to see. I honestly think his value is somewhere between a third and a fourth round pick because you got Devontae's trade. His was a third and some, but Cubs not Devontae. So I mean, ideally, if you could get him for a third, fourth round pick, you're pulling the gun. Like, depends who you are. Depends how needy your team is.
I could see a third round pick for Cup if the Rams package something with Cup. Like if they gave him maybe a fifth or a sixth with Cup. I don't know if a team, because this is the thing. You're on you're not even on the second year yet of your 3-year deal. GMs are going to take advantage of that and say, hey, LA, you're desperate. You're desperate to get rid of this guy because you need the capital to continue
Yeah.
to compete and keep your team young and thriving. You got Puka Nakua there, but you just don't want Cup anymore and you don't want that $30 million hit. I get that. But GMs are going to take advantage of that. They're going to say, hey, you're desperate to get rid of him. You give me Cup in a fourth, Cup in a fifth, I'll give you a third. I can't
Yeah.
see a just a swap Cup in the third. And was that how similar the Adams trade was?
If we're talking like pick wise, I think it was what? Let me look. It was the third and some. Hold on. It was a third rounder that can become a second rounder if Adams was a first or second team All Pro.
And he wasn't. There's no way.
No. So that's the thing. You can get kind of fancy with those picks.
So they're going to try to do conditional picks.
I could see that. I could see like You could throw like a fourth that turns to a third if he reaches some milestone. You could do that.
And that might be the case because this is the thing. A
This is a
conditional
tough one.
pick is good and bad for your team. Because obviously you don't want to give as much capital as you want to acquire a player. So Harbaugh say, hey, he's going to give this conditional fourth. That'll be a third if Cup gets 1,000 receiving yards. He wants Cup to produce. He's going to have him for another year because he's traded him. He's still 2 years left on his contract. He's going to have him for 2 years. He wants him to produce. So you kind of have this standard of, oh, I want you to get there, but I have to give up more if you do.
Yep. And that's where the Patriots came into play because they said trade him to a contender, like you said. But the Patriots are trying to build around Drake May at this point, and they have a lot of money and they have a lot of picks. So they could outbid some people, but I don't know. I like the Chargers fit. If you weren't going to say Chargers, I actually did have that in my mind too. It just makes sense. But I don't know. It's like the Patriots are going to go in on a receiver. It's just who is it at this point? Is it going to be T. Higgins? Is it going to be Cup? You don't know.
Well, let's talk about another player who wants to go to a championship contender. Myles Garrett, the 2023 Defensive Player of the Year, has requested a trade from Cleveland. He's done with the Browns, but he says he has accomplished everything he has been able to do in his career. There's nothing left for him to accomplish except one thing. That's a Super Bowl. So, just like the Rams sending Cup to a championship contending team, although he's already won one, Myles Garrett hasn't. So, he doesn't think the Browns can compete.
That was clear.
Myles Garrett also has 2 years left on his deal. He's got a 5-year, $125 million deal. He's got 2 years left on it. But he's just shy of a $20 million cap hit in 2025. So you have to start thinking of teams that can take on this cap hit or that could be comfortable taking on if they restructure deals. He's the first player to reach 100 sacks before the age of 29. So keep that in mind, Alec. He has a little bit of prestige to his name.
He does.
Where does Myles Garrett go?
Well, okay. I know there's been a lot of turmoil with the Packers and Max Crosby, but hear me out. You have a chance to go get a premium edge rusher. That doesn't come around every day. And the last time the Packers really added the premium edge rusher that wasn't drafted there was Reggie White when he signed there. So if you're Brian Gutekunst, you're sitting there. You're looking to wait or for ways to improve your team. Why not add a first ballot Hall of Famer edge rusher? He's going to be first ballot already. We know that. You have a chance to go get him, and you already said in your press conference that you want to contend now. It's time to contend now. Your window is now. You have Jordan Love. You have an offense that's going to need some work, but you have the cap space for the first time in a long time because Aaron Rodgers is finally gone and off your books. Last year was the first year that they finally just were gone of his contract. So with all that being said, how aggressive are you willing to get? If you give away the first this year, drafts in Green Bay, I don't care. Parade Myles Garrett around on stage. That's fine. The fans are going to love that too. But if it's not going to be Green Bay, I've seen Philly. He's mentioned wanting to be in Philly with Howie and all them. So it's like, either way, Myles Garrett going to a contender and he's hungry to win, that's worth who knows how many picks in my book. It's at least a first and some, if not a first, maybe a third and a player. You don't know. The value is going to be up there at this point.
Maybe we see a Saquon type situation with Myles Garrett. But I agree. I think he goes to the NFC. And this is a team he goes to. I'm going to tell you where Myles Garrett goes to in 2025.
Where's he going?
I'm glad you're not taking my answers. Maybe he's kind of wanting a little bit of warmer weather like you were in Mobile. He goes
yeah.
Maybe, just maybe, He goes to Tampa Bay. Now, this would mean a reunion with Baker Mayfield, but the Buccaneers would have to restructure contracts in order to get there. Okay, they have just over $5 million in cap space in 2025. These are just projected numbers. Of course, anything can happen by the time we actually get to the season.
Right.
So Mike Evans is on a hefty deal. Baker's on a big deal. Vita Vea is on a big deal. I would try to target one of those, restructure it. You only have to make up $15 million. Obviously, you could cut players. You're not older players. You're not really fond of that you just want to do away with. Maybe Shaq Barrett's still there. Do away with some older players. We'll see what happens. But if Shaq Barrett's there, he's an outside linebacker, plays a lot on the line. Why not get you the guy that stays on the line in Myles Garrett?
And as you were talking about that, any of those three teams we talked about, think about adding Myles Garrett to whatever the defensive line situation is that they already have. You add him to the Bucs, you have Vita Vea there. You add him to the Packers, you got Rashawn Gary and Kenny Clark. And then you add him to the Eagles, who just have so many defensive linemen that could pair. Nolan Smith, Jalen Carter, like any of those defenses get even more scary. And I get, like, there's a lot of teams that could take it on, like his contract, but there's not many teams that you add him to and it's like, oh, wow, like, what are we going to do against that defense? And there's those three, no matter who you are, that'd be scary no matter where he ends up.
And if he ends up in Tampa Bay, I don't know if the NFC South is obtainable anymore. They might just be too high powered. Baker's playing some good football. He is playing some good football, and I hate to say it, but you got to think. He's had a couple offensive coordinators come and go since he's been in Tampa.
Yeah.
Dave Canales, he's gone. Baker's first year. Liam Cohen is now the head coach for the Jacksonville Jaguars, who was there this past year. So now he has to keep learning. I won't say learning. He's a veteran. I'll call him a veteran. But he still has to play in the style of these offensive coordinators.
All right.
Will that cause a decline in Baker's game? The defense has to make up for it. If it does, adding Garrett to your team might not be so bad.
I agree. And just to add on to mine a little more, you had a leading sack person on your team, Rashawn Gary. He had 7 sacks. You realize you need to get home. If you're the Packers, you need to get home. Keyshawn Nixon had 3 sacks. He almost had half of Gary's sacks this year.
Safety? Did he play safety or does he play
slot corner? Slot corner. Yeah. So, you need someone to go get him. You need someone to go get the quarterback, and it cannot be our slot corner. It cannot be our slot corner. And Gary is good, but to be a number 1 edge rusher, I don't know, that might be out of the question at this point. He needs some help. Whether it's Max Crosby or Myles Garrett, you don't know, but Myles Garrett's available. That is publicly clear that Myles Garrett is available. So if you're Goot, you got to be aggressive.
In order to be aggressive, you got to have a little bit of money.
Aaron Rodgers is gone. That is how we have the money this time.
But Alec, I know you have places to be, people to see. I appreciate you coming on. Bring somebody on for the second segment. But as you get off and go away and do what you need to do, and as wherever you go, you'll probably be in a car driving. Is that a fair statement?
Very fair.
Okay, well, when you punch your keys into that ignition and turn it, keep in mind, a man that can keep you safe on the road goes by the name of Jeff Tepney. Go buy his car insurance.
Here's to the grown-ups. Your car is now your office, stage, nursery. Sorry. Erie Insurance offers products that lots of other companies don't. That's a big deal. And it's a good deal, too. And with Erie, you get your own independent agent, not a giant corporate call center or some online robot. You meet with a real person, like this.
Your local Erie agent is Building Block Insurance Group. Get a quote today at 704-464-4544.
Erie Insurance.
And when you call Jeff Tepney at 704-464-4544, go ahead and ask him, with everybody hopping on and off the show, is anybody going to stay? Which brings me into my second co-host of the night, probably the first time we've ever done this. It's a little bit unorthodox, but he's a familiar face on the least. So I'm going to bring him on. One of my best buddies, Mr. No Brock.
Hey, not gonna lie, I just got to my apartment like 10 minutes ago.
I asked him if he could finish the show.
And Connor texted me. He was like, "We're talking about this, this, and this. I'm gonna put you on in a minute." I'm like, "What?" But I'll add what I can to the breakdown on this Tuesday evening.
Well, I'll set you up for greatness, so you're not ever blind with me. But since Nate's still not here, I don't know what he's on an important call. He keeps jumping in and out just in case.
He's a busy man.
I see him at the bottom, but he's busy. He's busy, so don't worry.
Making money moves.
But I hope Noah can swim. And even if he could, we're not swimming with the Loch Ness today. We're going to be going into our second segment, and it's called Unlocking Answers. Now, Noah, there have been talks, that the NFL is not quite satisfied with the 17-game season. They want to add one more game. And what's one more in the next couple years? Maybe 19, maybe 20. And we'll just keep adding games till we get to a basketball season or a baseball season.
Well,
where
if
we have
we had
80-something games.
a basketball, baseball type season in the NFL, then guys would be dying on the field by week 25. Like that ain't happening. 18's a stretch. Dang, 17's a stretch. But I do think 18 would actually be interesting because I don't know if you've ever seen this. I saw this a couple years ago, but if they just added either another bye week to the season or an 18th regular season week, then the day after the Super Bowl would be on President's Day every year, and Super Bowl weekend would become a 3-day weekend. And I think that's pretty cool. That's why I kind of think maybe let's add an 18th game, but then stop after that.
Oh, I see it, because it'd be 2 weeks from yesterday.
Yeah.
So we still have the Pro Bowl. Then we'd add. Oh, okay. Well, then we'd only get 1 week. We'd have to mess around with it. But I know for a fact that if another game was played, then that would mean one more bye week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the second
season.
bye week that would mess up the President's Day thing. But maybe if we mess with the Pro Bowl, maybe just got rid of the Pro Bowl. Who cares about that? Because I'd rather have the 3-day Super Bowl weekend than the Pro Bowl games. With, featuring
or keep it during
Drake
the
May.
week. I mean, they have it during the week now. Start it earlier during the week.
Exactly.
And then Sunday would cap off. It'd be the Pro Bowl, and then the Sunday would be the Super Bowl. So then you just have a whole week of just festival.
You could put it in the same city as the Super Bowl as
Exactly.
well. I don't know if they already do
it
that.
It would just be like a whole weekly festival. We could have
and then it might matter again if they
Yes,
do that,
it would might. I mean, you could buy these. It would be perfect for business because you could buy these weekly passes to get you into the Pro Bowl, to get you into practices, to see Super Bowls. I mean,
like
honestly, it might not be bad for business.
Yeah, because look, as of right now, what was the Pro Bowl this past weekend?
Yes.
See, I didn't see a single highlight on Instagram or on Twitter. I didn't see nothing about the Pro Bowl. All I know is that Drake May was in the Pro Bowl as an alternate, and I heard that, and I was like, I ain't watching this. What do you mean? And a couple years ago, Tyler Huntley got himself into a Pro Bowl. It's like, bro, I'm not watching this.
It ruins all credibility when you add people that have played 10 games of the season, like when Beyonce won the country music album of the year at the Grammys. It just ruins all credit. Yes, it ruins all credibility when that kind of stuff happens. Because first of all, Drake May and Tyler Huntley We're not the best options, but it's because everybody and their mama kept opting out, so they just got so far down the list that those were the only options left. And of course, those guys are going to accept it.
When you got the 25th best quarterback in the league, like it's like, what are we doing here? Like it's just. When we were growing up, nobody opted out. Like, sure, you had the top 2 quarterbacks or whoever playing in the Super Bowl, but then every other year, I mean, everybody else was still there, Like, you would have your Drew Breeses and your Peyton Mannings and your Tom Brady's and your Roethlisbergers playing in the Pro Bowl. And it was like something you actually sat down and watched every year.
Well, it's because it meant something then. And there was in the 2011 Pro Bowls when players started kind of barely tackling and kind of just stumbling into people and not really running the ball. And then Roger Goodell said, hey, we're putting an end to this. Like, I'm going to completely cancel out the Pro Bowl. And then that leaves all of you guys that put it on your resume to make you sound like a better player. You're not going to have it. So guess what they did in 2012, which could be an exciting new addition if they did this with the Manning brothers that they keep trying to do AFC versus NFC, which makes sense because of where they played in their careers. But when Jerry Rice and Deion Sanders drafted in 2012,
I remember that.
It meant a lot more because now these players, instead of playing with their conference buddies, we had people playing with players they would have never fathomed and dreamed of playing with before. And it gave it that much more excitement because now they're playing with some of their brothers that they couldn't have ever played with otherwise.
And I also feel like there's something distinguished feeling almost about like having those legends pick you almost. Like it's like I'd feel a little something if like Jerry Rice said like, oh, I'm picking you to be my wide receiver 1 on the Pro Bowl roster over this other guy, It puts, I think, like a little bit of extra like oomph to it as well.
No, imagine if some people call him the greatest of all time. I think Jerry Rice is the greatest wide receiver of all time.
Oh, for sure.
I don't think there's really much of an argument there. Imagine if the greatest wide receiver of all time picked you number 1 in the Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
He pointed at you and picked you number 1 in the Pro Bowl. It'd like be us growing up in recess when we were picked number 1 playing football at the
I was
freaking
never
playground.
Number 1.
I'm sorry.
My big old self.
I guess that was just a one-sided experience.
You were usually number 1.
Well, this experience does not have to be. This experience does not have to be one-sided, okay? Because if we thought about it on a business. Obviously, the NFL could make more money with another installment of a game, and then another bye week, and then maybe if they decide, hey, let's make it a whole week, we'll have a Super Bowl festival, then they'd be even more money. I mean, the NFL needs to hit us up because we could literally be the coordinator.
We got ideas, bro.
Your mom is literally a professional coordinator. She could help us.
Exactly, bro. We can host it in Hattiesburg, Mississippi.
We could host it. Maybe not in Hattiesburg.
Coliseum.
But they'll fly us out and host it for a whole week.
Yeah,
I would totally miss school for that. Like, easy. It would not even be a question.
Oh, yeah, I'd drop out.
With how much with how much money you could possibly make from that, a lot of it would go in our pockets. But let's stop thinking about money and let's start thinking about the players. Obviously, injury would be a tough thing to deal with. It's an extra game. You're prone to that extra game of injury. Do we see people, usually do you sit out the last game of the year because you say, hey, I've clinched the conference or I've clinched the playoffs? Do we see people sitting out a couple games before the last game of the season now because now we've added another game? Saquon didn't play the last game of the season. Well, if another game was added, does he sit out that game too?
Well, really, the way I look at it, if we're adding an extra week of play and not adding an extra bye week, right? What I really rather do if I'm an NFL coach, an NFL GM, whatever, I might, instead of like not playing your starters the last 3 weeks of the year, I might implement like load management, like in the NFL, like in the NBA. Like imagine, okay, I'm marking off at the beginning of the season, Saquon sitting week 3, 7, and 14 and 12 or whatever, because I rather have Saquon play weeks 16, 17, 18 most of the time, right? Because we're not necessarily going to have clinched the first seat. If we have clinched the first seed, then yeah, I'm benching him. But I would almost pencil in a couple games at the beginning of the season where I'm going to have different guys not play to manage how bad that extra week is going to be on them. Because 17 is already hard. 18, people are going to be like dragging themselves around by the end of it. So that's what I would do.
You honestly, there's good things that can come from that. Obviously, it's kind of difficult to say, hey, I'm going to bench you these weeks, and then there would have to be a whole process where you get it approved probably by the whole NFL.
Mm-hmm.
So it'd probably be a whole process they'd have to create. But it would also allow for player development of players that you have going up. Like, think about it. Will Shipley played in the Commanders game. He's the rookie for the Eagles, a rookie back for the Eagles. After Saquon, they benched him because they were up so much. He ended up having over 150 all-purpose yards as a rookie in a conference championship. Imagine if he had played a couple games in the regular season, then you would have really saw what he was made of before you got to the championship game. And instead of saying, hey, Will, you're up, we'll see what you can do. You're like, okay, Will, go out there and be you.
I think it would definitely be plausible because if you're just you can rotate dudes, you don't bench all of your starters on this week and this week and this week. You have 2 or 3 guys that are benched every week. Your third middle linebacker gets to play on week 3. Your 5th string corner gets to play on week 6, so on and so forth. You have your 3rd string running back out there on week 2. I don't know, and so everybody would get a chance at some point throughout the year, and you're really using your entire 53-man roster in your entire practice squad probably. And I think you're right. That actually would help a lot with player development.
Well, if you end up using and utilizing that entire 53 men on your roster, does it allow for a higher roster cap? Are we saying, hey, since we're using these many people, we got to have these emergency guys on standby if something happens? Do we raise the cap? Do we raise the practice squad cap? How do we go about that? Instead of 53, do we go to 60? Instead of 12 men on the practice squad, do we go to 15?
That's tough because, NFL rosters are already huge, especially with you having an entire practice squad as well. And there's there probably is plenty of talent out there. But I feel like it would be kind of hard to start filling this if we go up to a whole 60-man roster. But I could see adding 2, 3, 4 to the roster cap, bringing it up to maybe 55, 57, and then maybe a couple to the practice squad. But I think 60 is a little too much. I don't know about you.
I'd agree because if you get to that high of a roster count, then you would almost have to you'd have to raise the cap.
That's
have to raise the cap. That's only
another
issue.
7 guys you're paying not starter, but main roster money. Even 57 is a lot when you think about it. I think 55 is the highest I'd go.
And you're only adding one game.
Because you're only adding one game.
And you still have the practice squad. Not a lot of people, though, elevate from the end of the year. So now we're going to get into the question of, okay, now there's going to be a lot more practice squad elevation in the middle of the year due to all the rotation they're going to be doing because of this extra game and because of your proposal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's an interesting concept. I think it'd be cool.
I don't hate it, but whatever they do decide, they need to get us on the board so we can plan the festivities for the week of Super Bowl. Well, yeah, I guess, but I just kind of want to do something in football, and this gives me the opportunity.
Sponsored by the NFL Pro Bowl games.
Yeah, the NFL Pro. Oh my gosh, we could literally have Did you see Jameis Winston in his interviews?
Oh my gosh, it's so funny. Him asking Nick Sirianni and Saquon Barkley, hey, who needs to sign me in free agency? Who needs to sign me in free agency? And it's he's just funny.
Honestly, I wouldn't mind him back in New Orleans.
as a backup to Rattler. Bro, Carr is not going to be on the Saints next year. I was looking. Did you see what Kellen Moore said
Yes,
earlier?
I did.
He
He's
was like,
he's a good player.
No, because Kellen Moore and Derek Carr. I think Kellen Moore's senior year and Derek Carr's, I want to say freshman or sophomore year, they actually
played against each
other. And Boise put the BTA on Fresno State. Like, it was not even a close game, if I remember correctly. So Kellen Moore, I feel like, assuming Kellen Moore is the next head coach of the New Orleans Saints, which I believe he is, I feel like if you're a former quarterback like he is, you can assess how good a guy is probably better than anyone, especially if it's a guy you've played against. So if Kellen Moore has played against this guy and he knows he's not good, then there's no way that Derek Carr is a New Orleans Saints next year.
Oh, man, I hate the dead cap hit, but eventually you have to eat it because if he's going to be the next Sean Payton, which is what a lot of people are saying, like, hey, this is another Sean Payton-esque risk move that they made back in 2006 or whenever Sean Payton got there. I think that's
I don't want to put those expectations.
Yeah, me neither.
I'd rather say he's the first Kellen Moore.
Yeah, exactly. But what did Sean Payton do his first year there? He said, hey, I don't like this quarterback. He suffered a year of him. And then the next year he said, I'm doing away with them. And then they ate up $33 million of Russell Wilson's cap. Do the Saints do something like that? I mean, I think you have a trial run season, and you don't have a dead hit if you get rid of Derek Carr after this season. His guaranteed money's gone after this year. This is void year, his fourth year of his 4-year contract. Kellen Moore can do a trial run, or he can say, look, I played against you. I didn't like your game then. I sure don't like your game now. And we're going to bring a new era in New Orleans.
And he could really even keep him on the roster and just not start him. That's an option too. But I know that we take less dead cap if we cut him. I know there's a certain window.
June 1st.
If he's a June 1st release, then I know the dead cap is less.
That's
probably what I would do if I'm Mickey Loomis. But I think Mickey Loomis does just about the opposite of what most people would do. So who even knows?
I'm going to give him credit, though, for this head coaching search, because it has actually been a lot more in-depth than I had anticipated it being.
But it's been terrible. What do you mean?
It's been bad, but it's because of the candidates. It's because of his mistakes he had made for so long in the situation he has New Orleans in now, to where nobody wants to go coach there. And because Kellen Moore is young and impressionable, he's like, oh, you can come to New Orleans. You can come here. You can be a head coach, buddy. He's like a genie.
Moore?
Like 38. He's only
Moore's
38.
Like younger than our dads. Probably
he's 36. He's 36.
Bruh.
Isn't that Derek Carr's age?
No, Derek Carr's probably like 33.
Oh, 33. Okay, yeah.
Because when they played in college, I think Derek Carr was a freshman and Kellen Moore was a senior. But I think the head coaching search has been terrible because everybody else has had their head coach for 3 weeks. And I'm not even going to blame the stuff Mickey's done in the past on why we can't sign a head coach. I think it's because of that dumb interview he did a month ago where he was running his mouth off for an hour and saying, oh, this job's desirable because there's only 32 of them in the entire world. So, you're going to just have to deal with the fact that we're a negative 200 million whatever in cap space and have Derek Carr at quarterback, and we're paying Cam Jordan $800 million. No, I blame what he's doing right now.
I agree. I mean, once Kellen Moore is announced head coach, I hope it is soon. After the Super Bowl, of course, we'll know.
Hope it's like the day after the Super Bowl.
If we just get a freaking Rent-A-Center head coach, Oh my gosh, I will be so mad.
Mike Kafka.
Mike Kafka. I love you, Mike.
2026 Coach of the Year, Mike Kafka.
I
Incoming.
just saw you. Okay, Michelle asked if Broccoli does impersonations. So I'm gonna get Broccoli to do his best.
Who am I about to do an impersonation of, bruh?
I'm gonna let you do your best Mahomes impression about winning the AFC Championship. Okay, go Kermit.
How about you give your best Mahomes impression? I don't think I can do a Kermit voice. You're the
I don't
host.
know. I don't know if I can do a Kermit voice. Okay, ready?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I don't even know how I do it. Hold up. I feel like I have to hear Kermit the Frog here.
Oh yeah, that's kind of it. That's better than I could do.
You know how good? Oh, wait, no, he's got like a rasp though, so I gotta like have a little rasp behind it.
It's like Kermit if he's.
Oh man, I don't know how I'm gonna do it. Do you know how good I love those referees giving me that tush push call so I can get it off fourth down on the? I don't know. It's bad.
Okay, that's enough.
I know
That's
it's
enough.
bad.
Next
It's
segment.
bad. It's
Next
bad.
segment.
Okay, next segment. Oh, cut.
Michelle's not allowed to
Oh man.
make requests anymore.
I don't know about you. Yeah, Michelle's banned. Ban Michelle. I don't know about you. But we should start a Saints podcast. Before we do that,
We should.
I hear my stomach grumbling just a little bit. I'm getting a little hungry. And to
some
feed
gravy,
my
perhaps?
desires, maybe some gravy, but I need to have a little Tums just in case I get a little bit of acid reflux.
I got some right behind me in my bathroom.
Quick lazy me. I'm a little hungry. I'm ready to eat a little gravy with C. Davy. Oh, because today we're going back. We are traveling back in time to 2024, February to be exact, before the Kansas City and 49ers rematch in Super Bowl 58, where I had a Super Bowl script episode. Well, this year, we're doing the same exact thing because I have pulled a little bit of something to show you and maybe argue to you that the Super Bowl is indeed scripted. And I'm glad I have you on this because I'm going to make an analogy that only you and a couple people in the chat could understand, including Michelle. She's not banned yet, but including Michelle.
We're working on it.
In progress. But now we have the Chiefs and the Eagles in Super Bowl 59 in New Orleans, Louisiana. This is the second time these two teams have met in the Super Bowl in 3 years. If we go back, last year was another rematch in the last couple years. I believe that was 4 years, 3 or 4 years, the Kansas City Chiefs and the 49ers.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
What are you getting at?
Now, before I get there, let's look at a visual aid to help us decide. Well, maybe this is predetermined. Maybe this NFL Super Bowl stuff is predetermined. I'm going to pull up the thumbnail for today's episode. And you tell me if you spot anything in the logo that you could say, okay, maybe it is a little sus. Okay? You ready?
I know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh. It's the green and red, like the Chiefs and Eagles.
It's the green and the red in the Super Bowl logo. Now, I tried to pull this last year, but it was more purple than it was whatever the 49ers color. But there was still
purple and red last year.
There was still the 49ers are red. Just
the Ravens are purple.
The two red teams.
By logo theory, it should have been the Ravens and Niners.
Maybe. But if we take a look at last year's numbers, now a lot of things can go into consideration when deciding the next Super Bowl year. And I'm going to say deciding because this is all predetermined. This is all scripted, Noah. And I'm going to prove it to you. Money talks. The NFL is a business. If you look back at last year's Super Bowl, it is the highest viewing count of any Super Bowl by 8 million, which is insane. Okay, just by having a rematch from 4 years prior. Now we get into the situation where we're having a rematch from only 2 years prior. A little bit more money. I like to call the NFL WWE. If you take a look at it, okay, when has a rematch story benefited the WWE most in recent years?
Cody finishing the story.
The
Last
greatest
than the year before.
and most viewed by far WrestleMania of all time is when Cody Rhodes finished the story against Roman Reigns.
Yeah.
But how many times did it have to happen before Cody finished the story?
Like 100 times.
2 WrestleManias.
Yeah, 2. But like,
2
I guess he
WrestleManias.
was pestering them 100 times.
The
But yeah, 2
only way for a team to finish the story is with a rematch.
So is the story let me ask you this: is the story the Mahomes three-peat, or is it Jalen Hurts revenge? Which one's the story?
Thing. That's the thing. Just like WWE, there are predictions. Sometimes it's predictable, sometimes it's not. Now, when you look at the WWE, how much money they made off that WrestleMania and how much money the NFL made off this past year's Super Bowl with the rematch, the highest viewed Super Bowl ever, you got to start taking pages from another successful company's book. Keynote WWE. When you look at these rematches and how much money can come from that, I mean, oh my gosh, Roger Goodell's eyes are just all green with money signs, his pupils. He's like, oh my goodness, I could bring a rematch to New Orleans, the biggest Super Bowl venue ever.
The Super Bowl city.
The most Super Bowls ever in a city with 11, has the most history for a Super Bowl ever. And now you're getting into the conversation of what is the biggest draw? What can pull the most viewership in and what can make the most money? And the only way to answer that question is seeing the fruits of last year's Super Bowl. It was a rematch with 4 years prior. And now we're getting into another rematch. Although Kansas City got the best of the 49ers last year. Well, so did Roman Reigns in the first bout against Cody Rhodes. Now we're getting into maybe Jalen Hurts finishes the story. I think this isn't about Jalen Hurts, but more about Saquon Barkley.
Saquon, yeah, I see that. Yeah, I think your whole spiel, your whole rant, is interesting for sure, Connor. But like, let's like take off our tinfoil hats for a second, and maybe let's just consider, last year may have been the highest grossing Super Bowl ever because inflation, first of all. Second of all, 2 of the biggest brands in football in a rematch. People want to watch it. And I don't know, just because it made a lot of money, it's the NFL. They make more and more money every year.
But that's false. That's false. Because the Super Bowl under that is when the Patriots... when the Patriots came back against the Falcons. So you can say that, they just make more money every year, but it's false. Because if you look at the numbers, although that first Kansas City and Philly Super Bowl is up there, I think it's
it's up there. Like,
it's up there. I think it's number 3.
But it's like it's
2016 had 115 million views. Excuse me. 2024 had 123 million. So 8 years ago, we were seeing the same numbers we're seeing now for the first Kansas City and Philadelphia Super Bowl. How do we get the same numbers we got last year, Noah? The only way to do that and the only way to break records and the only way to get more money is by taking a page from another successful business's book, like I've said before, and have a rematch.
What if these are just good teams? Like, what if the reason these teams are in the Super Bowl every year is because these are literal dynasties? You know,
Okay, so
the Chiefs are just like the best team, and
you
they
thought
have the
that
refs cheat for
you
them the most.
there you go. You
But
just
that
said
doesn't
it.
make it scripted just because the refs are just
Do you
bad.
know how easy it is to call a game one way or the other on a
It's
one
very
possession
easy.
game?
It's
One
very
possession. It's real easy to keep them Buffalo Bills at a field goal range to tie the game up. It's real easy to do that.
but
It's real easy to turn the ball over when they're already up and really close to winning the game. It's real easy to do that.
so you think the Bills are throwing too? You think people there? You don't because look, I understand. I can maybe get behind it a little bit if you were just saying, "Oh, these referees are calling this game a certain way, and if it goes the way they want it to go, it will 90% of the time, and sometimes they mess up, right?" But I don't think you could say like, "Oh, the teams are throwing." Like, there's no way that Josh Allen or whoever is going out of his way to fumble the ball or
Oh,
do
I'm not saying
whatever.
they're throwing. I'm saying the refs are throwing for them.
Well, so but like
I'm saying that it's very
The
easy to
Bills had an
say.
opportunity to win that game. If they didn't they have like a costly turnover towards the end of the game or something, a fumble. I didn't
I
watch the
think
game.
Allen might have thrown an interception the last. Either they turned it over one way or the other. It was either on downs or they threw an
Yeah.
interception. One way or the other. Yes, I get that. But you don't get there if you just call the game right in the first place. Do you really believe wholeheartedly as a fan? Oh, you didn't
Uh-huh.
watch the game, so I can't even ask you.
Well, yeah, but I may have seen a highlight. I don't know.
The tush push. Now Josh Allen and the Bills were 0-3, so probability was not on their side. And for a
Mhm.
ref, before that play's called, it's like, oh, well, it's easy to call it one way or the other and say, oh, well, they hadn't made it all game. They didn't make it this time either. It's really easy to have that argument. If you were in the court of law, you'd probably win that 9 times out of 10 because you said, hey, they didn't make it before. They didn't make it that time. When I tell you Josh Allen's whole body was over that yellow line and then some, you could have fed a whole family of 16
And they
in
called it
between
no
Josh
good.
Allen's foot. And they
I haven't
said
seen
that he
this.
didn't get the 4th down.
Ugh.
I'm telling you, I mean,
I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it. Do we
I'm
have a
big
clip?
on the, I'm big on the script stuff, but it's just ridiculous when even Ray Charles can see that. Noah, Stevie Wonder could have seen that.
I just don't think there's a script. I understand maybe refs are maybe rigging it. I just can't get behind there being a script. I just think that's I think that's Candyland. Like, I think that's fantasy. Like, I just hope it's a good game on Sunday. I hope the Eagles win. I don't like the Eagles. I hope they win. Let's just hope that the script isn't real and that the Chiefs don't three-peat.
I'll tell you what, if the numbers go down from this game because of how upset fans are, you're going to see a change in the decision making of the NFL next season. I'm just saying.
What you're
Just
saying? They're
saying.
going to quit having the refs rig stuff, or
No.
they're going to come up with a new
They might
scoreline?
switch it up with a couple new teams in next year's Super Bowl.
Oh my God! Can it be? Can the Saints be in it?
No, not as a rookie head coach. Sorry.
Speaking
Never
of
happened.
scripting, I've seen some people saying the Luka trade was scripted, that the NBA scripted that to raise viewership. What do you think about that? You think the NBA scripted too?
These are all like money schemes, Noah. They might as well add entertainment at the end of each of their names because that's what it is, scripted entertainment, because it's all for our entertainment and they're going to do whatever they can do to get entertainment out of fans.
So you think it's all scripted? Baseball too? Baseball's kind of boring. I watch baseball.
I know. I can't watch MLB.
I don't know because
I can't watch
I'm sitting
MLB.
there watching the White Sox, and I'm sitting there, and I can't think that's scripted because it's just about the most miserable baseball I've ever seen in my life. Like,
Now,
I guess we had Yankees and Dodgers in the World Series, so maybe that goes towards the scripted argument. I don't know, but the year before that, the Rangers won the World Series? That's definitely not scripted.
it becomes a lot harder to script it when you get kind of farther into the game and that lead becomes unobtainable for the other team.
A very like analytical sport, I feel like. It's kind of just like you're doing the same thing over and over again. It's like numbers, like I feel like it's harder to just mess with like that, because like the umpire can only affect so much in a baseball game. Like all you can really do is call bad strikes and balls.
Yeah, but what if it's a hit will win you the game and the ref's like, oh, I'm going to play Stevie Wonder for just a second and call whatever comes to mind, whatever I feel like it is.
Well,
I don't know.
umpires do that. Umpires are just bad, but it's like
they're just blind. I know. I
you
don't have any argument for any other sport because I don't know it.
Yeah, but I don't think it's scripted. I watch just about every sports league. I don't think it's scripted, but I think it's fun. I'm glad that it's fun for you to talk about.
Well, when it gets proven one day while I'm long and gone, everybody can come back to these episodes and comment below that I was right.
Well, I hope that happens.
I hope it does too. Maybe Goodell's final wish will be to he'll have all this guilt on his shoulders that he'll just eventually spread. One of the things is you think there's that many people that wouldn't just slip a word or something. Dude, do you understand? There's a lot of things people can keep secrets for. What do you think Area 51 is? We have no clue what Area 51 is. I don't know. You say probably, but we don't know because there's so many people that keep that secret. There's so many people that keep that secret from the public. They think it's impossible to do when in fact we see it every day that it's not impossible. It's very possible to keep secrets. There's probably more people that know.
That's a whole different thing. We're talking about a sports league. There's no way it's always been scripted. This has been around since the 20s. I was looking at a
no, not always
earlier that was saying it was like the amount of money each NFL team most recently sold for, and it was like talking the Chicago Bears last time they were sold was in 1925 and it was for $100. That was just people running around in t-shirts, bashing each other's skulls in and tossing around a ball. So it couldn't have been scripted back then. And I don't know when it just suddenly became scripted.
It's when money started. If you look at, and I wish I talked about this earlier because I looked at it earlier.
50 years.
If you look at when it hadn't been for 40, 50 years, there's no way. But if you look at when kind of the numbers and viewership started dropping.
Which is when?
I have to look it up.
The NFL has always been the most viewed sports league.
I know, but there's obviously a number you want to keep at to where you're comfortable. A business wants to stay at a number before they're like, oh, well, maybe we have to declare for bankruptcy, or maybe we have to do this, or maybe we have to do that.
I think you're crazy.
I had those numbers. I'll have to get those
We've had this discussion a million times, and we'll probably have it a million more times. And I don't think I'll ever think it's scripted.
Well, Noah. Nate's not here. And I really don't know what I'm doing today. But I can't let this be the end of the show. Because we haven't done a new chapter. Now, I have no idea what in the world I'm about to talk about, but
I don't got nothing to talk about either.
I did have my first speech in public speaking today, and I wasn't prepared, barely any, because I've been out for a week, and they said, he texted me, or, the Canvas message on Monday night and said, hey, you have a speech tomorrow. In class. Be ready. This is what it's on. I said, okay. I had to introduce myself as an object. So I got
oh my gosh, I'd freak out.
well, let's do what I do best and let's wing this thing. And I picked up a leaf from the side of the road and brought it to class. And I said, how can I describe myself as a leaf? So I got to thinking. One of the things I started off with was, of course, if you know me, you know that faith is a big thing in my life. I try to make it a big thing in my life, and it's something that will always be a big thing in my life, especially since we do it on the show every week. We make sure we do it on the show every week. And so it's a staple at this point. It's something that's very concrete, and I try to keep it that way. So when I look at this leaf, I say, look, I'm the type of person that I got an RA interview this Thursday. I got this coming up this Thursday. My car's in the shop. I got to spend money to get that fixed. And I'm just the type of person of, look, hey, step back, be a little bit optimistic and say whatever happens is whatever happens. I talked to my classmates today. I said, look, God has a plan for you. Whatever happened is whatever's going to happen. And I picked up my leaf with a big smile on my face. I said, look, all y'all brought guitar picks. You brought banjos. You brought this, that, and the other. Somebody brought their personal diary. I said, I brought a leaf. And I said, if you look at this leaf, and you look at me, and you look at you, and you look at you, there is no leaf that is the same. Not even me and my identical twin brother are the same leaf. But the things that make us all the same, the things that make leaves all the same, are the seasons we go through in life. There is no perfect way to anticipate a season in your life until that season happens. The only way we can tell that you went through a season, the only way we can tell that this leaf went through a season is what the leaf changes to after the season is said and done, is what you change to as a person, as a child of God, after that season is said and done. Obviously, I can say, hey, this leaf went through a season of changing. It went through a bad season. It turned a little brown. It went through fall. It went through winter. But I told him, I said, look, let's all keep our head on our shoulders, a good head on our shoulders, and let's all stay in our seasons of spring and summer, where the leaves are the brightest color of green we can find, the brightest color of this. Let's all be the brightest versions of ourselves and be more like leaves. It was only a 2 to 3 minute speech, but I think I did a fairly good job considering the circumstances.
Brother C. Dave was up there preaching.
I was up there
off the top of off the top of his head too.
Off the top of my head, and that's what I'm doing right now.
Bro, I would have dropped the class and had a break if they told me that I had to come up with a speech on a night's notice.
Well, everything happens for a reason, Noah.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened is whatever's going to happen.
Yeah, that was some preaching. Look, it helped you. It gave you something to talk about.
It gave me something to talk about today. So, Noah, as we go through, hopefully, our seasons of spring and summer and become the best versions of ourselves, if you don't mind, Brother C. Dave would like to end it up with a prayer so that we can finish this very special episode of Breakdown and not spend too much longer.
Yes, sir.
Amen. Lord, I thank you for letting us come here today. And truly, whatever happens is whatever happens. Lord, I pray that you help us see your plan for us in the near future, the upcoming future, whenever that may be. Lord, I pray that this show was not a failure, that I wasn't the only one here, that I could have one co-host in a couple minutes of the show, and then my friend Noah coming up and having my back and being here for the rest of it. Lord, I pray that you watch over us in these next seasons of life, that we may have seasons of spring and summer and not seasons of fall and winter, Lord, that we can be the brightest versions of ourselves, that you can help us be the brightest versions of ourselves when we go through some of the toughest fall and winter seasons, Lord. I pray that you keep us cyclical in the sense that we will always go to that summer. We'll always start on a high note and end on a high note with that summer season. Lord, I pray that you watch over us in our changings of seasons and to help us be the best versions of ourselves that we can be. And if we're nervous, we're worried and scared of the anticipation of what's to come, I pray that you keep us content. You keep us comfortable in the sense that whatever happens is whatever's going to happen. And your plan. Lord, I pray this in your Son's precious and holy name. Amen.
Amen. I thought Michelle was banned. What's she doing comedy?
Well, hopefully I did good on my speech. I could see my professor.
You know what grade you got?
No, I won't know until tomorrow, and I won't know how much my car bill is tomorrow, and I won't know until how good I do in my interview until the next week on Thursday. But whatever happens,
about last week.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I know. You got a fix from the place?
No, I ended up going to Oxford Tire because my mom called them and they could charge me less than $500. She called them a second time.
Really?
Yeah, and I was like, I gotta go there. It was like $460 for the same job that the other place wanted to charge me $900. But yeah,
Not
if
the place
you're,
I got you into.
Yeah, not the
It was
place you
only
were
gonna
gonna
be
get me into. It was
$500.
gonna be $500-$600, but it was like $460, man. It was too cheap for me to not go. But if anybody watching this is ever in the Oxford area and needs your anything on your car fixed, do not go to Gateway Tire because they are bad people that will try to charge you way too much. That's my advice to you today.
Well, I'll be in the Oxford area probably sometime this semester. I'll find my way there. When that will be is the basketball game. That's going to be so expensive. I don't have the money for
the Auburn game.
I know you did, and that was a good game. I had it on the left TV. Everything was the Senior Bowl, and then the TV right to the left of me in the front of me was the Ole Miss Auburn game. So I'd like swap between the two when there was like a downtime in between downs. It was a good game.
It was.
It was a good game.
Yeah.
Not as good as.
That was a sports moment. That was a good sports experience for sure. Best basketball game I've ever been to. But I kind of
not as good as the State Ole Miss overtime.
I wasn't there. I was just watching. I watched
game
it on my phone. Yeah, it was good.
It was so beautiful.
But I was camping out since 9:00 in the morning to get into that Auburn game. It was crazy.
We don't have that luxury. We can only go an hour and a half, sometimes an hour and a half before the game.
Well, they only let us in 2 hours before the game.
But you camped out.
We were camping outside. There had been people in tents since the night before in front of the door trying to get in because it's like that's how many people were trying to go to this game. I got there at 9 a.m. for a 1:00 game. I did not eat or drink a single thing that whole day until 4:30 in the afternoon because I was too paranoid to get out of my seat because that's how hard it was to get a student section seat. But I was like third row in the student section and I was not giving that up. So I just starved and was dehydrated and then we lost and I went home sad. But it was a good game. That was a Senior Bowl.
It was good. I enjoyed myself, but it was very exhausting. I didn't go to bed till about 4:00 every night, and I heard the snores and the of everybody else in the hotel room. Yeah, I had to post every interview. If there is I'll put it in the link in the description. There is a Senior Bowl playlist for every single interview, everything Senior Bowl wise. Go check it out because I spent a lot of time on it. It's got about 50 videos on there. If you want to watch me and a couple of the guys, Noah's favorite Jackson,
interviews, especially the ones from Cy.
Go watch them. Yeah, if you want to know what an NFL player thinks about the zombie apocalypse, go watch those interviews. Most of them are Cy. If you're interested in that, he's got some good interviews in there, like with the long snappers. There's some good ones in there. Go check it out. But until then, we'll be back next week. Tuesday is our permanent date until Nate's work schedule prohibits that. So as long as we keep his schedule in mind, then we'll be pretty good here, even though Nate wasn't here today. But it's whatever. It's a little bit easier on me when it's on Tuesday. But thank you, Noah, for coming tonight. I appreciate it.
It was last minute.
It was very last minute. I mean, you got on right before I was about to.
Yeah, I was on campus when the podcast started, and yeah, I had just gotten home when I got on.
Well, I'm glad you could do that. It means a lot to me, and it's takes a lot of weight off my shoulders instead of me sitting here yapping to the camera and about the
Yeah,
Super Bowl
anytime.
script and sounding like a madman.
You still sound like one.
Well, until I put my tinfoil hat back on next year before next year's Super Bowl. I'm your co-host, the most electrifying co-host in sports entertainment, Connor Davis. The man to my right is not the 5-year NFL vet, the man, the mythology. It's one of my best buddies, Noah Brock, who goes to the University of Mississippi. We will see you next week on Tuesday, 7 o'clock Central, 8 o'clock Eastern. If you're Nate Nessie, sorry for the long talking and the yapping in the outro. Goodbye.